And then Jonathan, please come up next. And then finally, Leonard. So, Lapien, bonjour.
Bonjour.
And goedemiddag. Okay. I learned so many useful phrases in this job. Well, first of all, I want to thank, just kind of on behalf of the organizers and everyone here in the audience, your participation here in this panel. So let's get started. I would say, Anastasia, let's hear a little bit about your just a little bit about your background. Like what got you to be sitting in the hot seat up here?
Yeah, my name is Anastasia. I've been with the company with Jysk for 4 years, developing the e-commerce in Baltic region and in Belarus. I've been together in the development process of the e-commerce at the same time supporting on the operations and the business analytics. So combined.
Very good. And Jonathan, I know you were just on stage, so probably everyone knows a little bit about your story. But just for posterity and for the video here, give us the lowdown.
Yeah, so I've been a developer for more than 10 years in the digital area and only open source. It's where I met Magento, like in 2010. And I've been doing some lead development, also CTO. I was entrepreneur in Brazil. I made a lot of different e-commerces in the fashion. I'm specialized in the retail.
Okay, and then finally, Leonard.
Yeah, good question. What I'm actually doing here, I don't know, but working for 12 years at DHL now, and what we see at DHL is really.
Okay, this is better. Okay, so yeah, 12 years with the company. Let him do click in the meantime. DHL is truly the most international company of the world. There's no company who is operating in so many. Yeah, that's better. Operating in so many countries, so many territories, and for us, e-commerce is really it's a growth rocket. It's not a lifeboat, but e-commerce is growing very hard for us as a company. When we see e-commerce, all the shipments which are generated by e-commerce. And yeah, with that, working with 110,000 colleagues around the world to make all the merchants very successful.
Only 110,000. Okay,
that's only for DHL Express. So overall, it's 580,000.
Oh my goodness, it's a small nation.
It is.
Okay, so Anastasia, I think when I was looking through, so actually as a me being not much of a shopper and in North America, Jysk was a new brand for me. But when I look into when I go and prepare for these kind of presentations and I look at the site, I mean there's a fascinating there's a pretty broad coverage that your company has, right, in terms of hitting many markets. What are you looking for? So from an e-commerce solution, what are you looking for? That helps you and the brand, even here in the region, navigate the challenges that being an omnipresent business is.
In here we operate in here from Riga we operate in 4 countries. We operate in 3 Baltic countries and in Belarus. Each of those countries have different market saturation. It has different country regulations. And at the same time, shopping experience for each of those markets, each of those small markets differ for the customers. So we focus on what our customers in each of the market perceive. For example, in Estonia, in our region, they're being ahead in digital commerce. So they expect more convenience from the online shopper, and they really focus on the delivering process at the same time. Lithuanian customers, they tend to browse more through the website before making the purchasing decision. And product information and general information on how and what is very important to that market.
Okay, that makes sense. It is fascinating when you talk about something like the Baltic region, right? How very different the consumer profile and behaviors are inside each of these markets. And then Zadig and Voltaire. I mean, you know, you've been at this business with the same platform for quite a long time. You know, I think you gave a good citation of why you've kind of kept the profile that you've had so far. But is there anything in particular that you would look for when you're evaluating e-commerce platform in the direction that you're going, that helps you really decide, like, okay, yeah, this is where we want to go, or this is the move that we want to make in any given market?
Yes. When I arrived at Zadig, we were with the whole website. As you know, like 10 years with M1, a lot of agencies. It's like crazy. And our CEO was wanting to do a next step, a new step, just to give a better user experience. It's the most important thing. It's our clients, so they need to have a good experience. And we needed to change all of this. And that's why we decided to go with a decoupled architecture, just to have the best tool made by the best e-commerce platform, for example. Magento is very good at cart and rules, tax, and localized platform. So we use it for this. And then we will use another tool for CMS, for example, because at that time, Page Builder was not ready, unfortunately. So that's why we needed to decide and move to another platform.
It's a well-known fact from days gone by. And then Leonard, so you mentioned, actually, you brought up a very good point in your presentation, maybe the salient point, which was that you can have, like, you all can help build the absolute best, discovery, acquisition, and then checkout experience. And if at the end the customer is not happy with the delivery information, the delivery time, you stand a good chance of losing that customer. What are DHL doing? Maybe let's take regionally, that helps merchants kind of make sure that the customer stays happy to the last mile or kilometer.
Yeah, there are various things we're doing there. Nice stat I was reading, by the way, was that 86% of consumers, they will never return to a website if the delivery experience was not positive. So if something goes wrong during the delivery experience, you have a risk of losing 86% of your, let's say, first-time buyers, and they will never come back. That stresses for me a bit the point. One thing what we're doing at DHL is, first of all, working with our own couriers. That may seem like something not that relevant, but in today's world, the only human interaction between your brand or, how do you pronounce it? Jysk?
Jysk.
Jysk, okay. So the only real human interaction between Zadig or with Jysk and their consumer is that delivery moment. It's that moment when the courier hands over the parcel. And that is why, for us, our own couriers are very important, that they are polite, smiling, show up in clean clothes. It sounds like something basic, but that is something what the consumer will actually remember from that delivery experience. That is not just, with all due respect, but just a shabby guy who comes and throws a parcel and walks away, etc. Yesterday at our table over dinner, we were talking about a lot of those videos which are online, where you see like couriers throwing parcels over the fence, etc. But that's really devastating to a brand, and that is how it's why it's that important.
Yeah, that is. I mean, the consumer at the end of the day doesn't care. They consider that whole experience to be curated by the brand. So actually, on that note, I mean, what has been interesting to me in the years that I think all of us have been in commerce, something that's grown is. Buy online, pick up in store, these kind of multimodal interactions, where the interaction might start out online, it might start out in the store, and then be delivered later. How do you, let's take Jysk, how do you all approach blending the real world and the online world and that kind of experience? I would imagine it may be a little bit different from region to region. Is that the case?
Yes, it is. But in any case, we perceive our company here as a single business entity. And we provide the same customer experience through our online and offline channels in both ways. We offer to our online customers to go and pick up your items in store, and we provide it in up to 3 hours. You can do it immediately the same day. And our retail consultants at the same time can share on the extended range that is available only for online customers.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a healthy exchange of information. You know where your products are at any given moment, and it sounds like you're also providing this information, you know, to the people who have direct contact with the consumer, right? So that they're empowered to get the consumer what they want. That sound right? Okay. Now, I would like to switch up a little bit. I mean, I think you were talking about this, what was it, PWA thing? Yeah, Progressive Web Apps. It is obviously a theme here at the conference. It's certainly a theme for our business at Magento. You know, you have made a choice. I mean, I'm big. I'm long on PWA. But at some point, you had to go. You had to say, "Hey, you know what? This is it. This is the strategy." How do you continually get buy-in into the organization? I mean, it seemed you were telling the story just a moment ago, sort of people bragging internally about what PWA can do. But do you find that you have to continue to champion it? A, and then B, I assume, do you have other conversations with other merchants where you're also maybe evangelizing a little bit for PWA?
Yes, it's a long road. I had a blank page to create a new story at Zadig, and I think it was interesting to see what was happening around PWA, because we had a lot of buzzwords, but not so much early adopters. It's a bit risky, it's true, but it was not possible for us to continue on Magento 2 frontend. As you know, it's very hard to develop on it. That's why Magento is growing in this way also with the PWA studio, and that's cool. And some months after, we saw that the whole team from Magento will be deprecated for the PWA. So I think it was a nice fit in the good moment. And as I told you, we are not we don't need to launch it tomorrow. We have time. Our business is stabilized actually. So maybe we will launch now, maybe we will launch in a month or two. We just want to be sure that we will give the best user experience ever for our customers.
That's maybe the most relaxed attitude of, well, we've got our work done and we'll launch it when we're ready. It's a really good position to be in. I imagine it's a fun team to work with. So Leonard, I was actually curious for DHL. I imagine not unlike the merchants, in the room, the merchants up here, a big part of what you do, what your brand is doing, is driven by data.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm totally springing this question on him. How does the flow of information about how you're doing things, how does that exist in the first place and shape the business at DHL?
In logistics, I think in every company it's all about data, but also in logistics, even more about data. It's continuous knowing what's happening in the network. It's continuously also understanding what are there hiccups, is something not working well, etc. And I think without data, our company is nowhere. But a bit going back to Anastasia's answer earlier when she was talking about the difference in consumer behavior or consumer demands even within the Baltics, that is also data where we are looking a lot at to see, okay, what are really delivery preferences? And that is something where that's a data which is for merchants very valuable and data which is not that easy to get, to really understand when it comes to delivery preferences, what do consumers really want, how do they want their shipment delivered, what time do they want their shipment delivered, etc. And those insights is also something we have, and also we were happy to share with merchants to show an example that, well, actually, if you ship something to the Nordics, yes, 80% of consumers will actually choose for a delivery at a service point, while in the outbacks in Australia, people are actually okay if you leave the shipment in front of their door without any signature, etc. And sharing those insights with that, you can really, let's say, think global, but really act local.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly, along with some of the emerging trends in front-end tech and, the whole part of the customer journey. Data's right there. I mean, if you're not validating assumptions, you're already falling behind. So if I kind of maybe, it's probably a good idea to look at, kind of look into the future. Anastasia, where do you see things headed for you? What things are you thinking about when you're planning world domination from here within the Baltics region? I mean, I realize you said that you really are providing kind of a unified experience, but I imagine you have some ideas about the kinds of things you want to enable for your customers.
That's true. But at the same time, it's a very important point to understand from where those ideas are coming. We listen to our customers, we listen to our employees' feedback on our processes, and we support all this data with all this feedback with the statistical data that it's available on our website. As of now, we are focusing on refreshing our designs, making the checkout process more clear and simple for the customer, as well as adding new features that will allow for the Baltic customers to make their shopping experience at Jysk online more personalized. Nevertheless, of this, the small markets, but at the same time, we have to look at the whole process development. So the key point for us is also the centralization, how to provide for our customers not only the same shopping experience for online and offline, but how to provide it across several countries in the same online and offline.
Wow, okay. Yes, okay. And then, so for you, it just occurred to me that you really did you bet doubly big, right, on things, because it was betting on PWA, but then you're also combining some a solution that's actually a little bit outside of where Magento ourselves are headed. Relying on something like View Storefront. When you're looking at getting the stakeholders on board, I'm sure you had to present a certain image of that, a certain vision for that. I'm curious, how much did the community, because you'd mentioned, thank you very much for the big slide up top of the there was a slide on basically the Magento ecosystem and how this community is awesome, which I tend to agree. But given that there's a community around View Storefront, did that factor into your decision for a solution?
Yes, a lot. I'm always experienced with open source platforms that has big communities like Magento. And the thing I was looking at for the PWA was quite the same. And I saw the community was growing very fast on View Storefront also, with the support of Vue.js, which is growing very fast also as a great language. So yeah, it was very important. It was one of the key facts we decided to go with them.
Okay.
And Magento guys were also coming into View Storefront channels. I was seeing a lot of guys, and then Sander came also as a CTO, and I say, yeah, great. We are with the great one, I think. But there are great projects coming around PWA. SCANDIWEB also is working on one. So it's great to see all these agencies doing their own PWA. I want to see in the next couple of years how it will be. I'm curious.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think I always maintain that our business is best when we're all working together. I think it was from the Dutch community early on that the term co-opetition emerged, where we all know we're kind of working in the same space, maybe touching elbows every once in a while, but that generally, as long as we are polite about it, we're all moving in the same direction together. I think that helps give reassurance and clarity to the merchants who are out there. Leonard, where do you see some of the next? What are some of the next trends that you see with the story of fulfillment as it relates to stores such as these?
When you talk about the future in logistics, the future last mile, people immediately tend to think about drones. There's a lot of cases, the first thing which pops up, like, yeah, let's do drone deliveries. We already do drone deliveries, as do other companies, so that's for me not the future, that's already today. However, drone deliveries is a perfect solution in the more rural areas, up in the Alps or somewhere in the outbacks or something, and that's perfect. However, I would personally not feel comfortable if I walk outside the door here and there would be like 200 drones circling above me making deliveries, because who can guarantee they had their maintenance, who can guarantee their battery life, etc. And also we should not underestimate the actual work of a courier, which doorbell to ring, where to knock, etc. And that's, I think that there's still a long technology development to go before a drone can actually do that, before a drone can analyze that. So that's on drones. I see more in the nearer future in autonomous vehicles, and then especially the smaller autonomous vehicles, self-driving, small delivery robots going in and out into the areas. They're already there. They're delivering pizzas in London. They're doing parcel deliveries in San Francisco, etc. So that's also something which is happening now already, but that's also where I see more in the future coming. And last point is also linked to artificial intelligence and to big data is what I see also happening in the future is more for companies like these, more small mobile warehouses driven by artificial intelligence. So that Zadig knows that, well, actually, for a lot of consumers who have bought these products, chances are high that when they bought these pants, they will also buy these sweater, etc. And then you will have more mobile warehouses so that the consumer can even still 5 minutes before the delivery or even at the moment of delivery can decide, oh, wait a second, now I can also get this sweater, or I can also get this pants now, and it's really matching well, so okay, I will also take that one. I think if you get big data right, and if you can get artificial intelligence right, and combine that with the small self-driving mobile warehouses, I think that is where further in the future it will go with logistics.
Very cool ifs, very big ifs, right? I mean, that's, I was actually just having a conversation in the sponsor marketplace along these very lines, which is that there are, like I was actually with the SCANDIWEB team, so, you know, the merchants know, like, they need to be collecting data, so they're just collecting troves and troves of data, but my God, what do you do with all of this? There aren't enough, I mean, I tell you what, if my kid hadn't already graduated from university, I'd be like, I don't care what you're good at, learn data science, because you will always have a career. But yeah, it comes down to the data, right? Really understanding what, you know, who the consumer is, but at a distance, and then better, you know, who your consumers are in aggregate. I mean, one of the things that I learned once we were bought by Adobe is that Adobe, on the digital experience side of the business, you know, we're collecting, I believe it's 3 trillion customer interaction, like data points per quarter.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's not a small amount of data. Like, there's a lot of zeros there. And, you know, you have to have very smart data science approach to really start to dig into that. So on that note, how are you using data? Because it really, again, it's all about the personalization of the journey. Like, every consumer really wants to feel connected to the brands that he or she's choosing. How are you all, you know, using data to drive your decision making at Jysk?
We segmentate.
Yep.
We personalize. We draft the expectations that the customers are placing on us, and based on that supportive data, we also go forward with our key business steps.
That makes sense. I assume it's a pretty similar story over at Zadig and Voltaire.
Yes, of course, personalization is coming fast. We are using it actually a little bit, but for us, as I told during my presentation, I will repeat, sorry, we need to have the same experience inside the shop and on the e-commerce. So it's difficult for us to have something 100% personalized. That's why we do a lot of manual merchandising, actually.
I think we often hear that the best customer interactions and best customer experience is the one that they almost don't even realize that they're having, right? Because it's so well curated, it feels natural. I know that's kind of a goal with our software, and probably a goal with, you know, with the solutions that each of you are building. So that's actually, I think, the end of the questions that I have. I'm actually curious if anyone in the audience might have a question for any of the panelists up here. Yeah? Any hands? Sander, thank you. He didn't actually raise his hand.
Thank you for letting me ask a question. Actually for shipment, I'm very interested. Like, what are going to be like the biggest steps you're going to make as DHL in the next coming year for the last mile to make it greener? And what can the merchants next to you do to actually make that greener? And perhaps even the developers and the agencies here, because I think it's definitely a topic that we're not talking about enough on how to make our business more sustainable.
First of all, perfect question. Thank you for asking. We will run out of time now because the moment I start talking about this topic, I need 30 more minutes. So, because I think it's the perfect question to pose. So thank you for that, because it's a concern. It is a topic which is becoming more and more important in e-commerce in general, but also in logistics, of course, that green last mile, because the more people order, the more deliveries we have to make, the more CO2 pollution there will be. So there are several things we are doing and we can do to at least do our best. So one thing is, as a company, we set ourselves the bold strategy to be zero emission by 2050. So by 2050, we want to be the first logistics company with zero emission, which is zero net emission, because we are still dependent on airplanes. So we're still dependent on the developments there, and the moment we have airplanes flying on batteries, etc. So, but still, we believe we can become that net zero emission company by 2015. We're investing a lot in elements like bicycle routes, electric vehicles, etc. And each business case which is written now for new vehicles should be based on at least CO2 friendly or completely electric vehicles. That's one. But what is more important is to make the last mile greener. It's key to have the first delivery attempt successful, because you can imagine the moment you have to come back a second time, that's disastrous for the environment. And that is something where we really need to work together with merchants, because in my slides I mentioned very briefly about on-demand delivery, so how consumers can take control of the shipment. We see there that the moment consumers make use of that the first delivery is successful. However, one thing we need there is contact details of the receiver, is the data of the consumer, because if we don't have that data, we can never contact the consumer and we can never support them in making that first delivery attempt successful. And that is how we need to work together with our customers to get the correct contact details as well, so that we can contact the customer. And with that also, we give the consumer in the end, so the receiver of the parcel, the option to register for their delivery preferences, so that when we deliver always to you and you're always at work from 9 to 5, that we then do not go blindly there every day, and knowing already you're not home, but we still drive the vehicle, but you can also then request, well, actually, for me, it's okay that whatever I order, when it's delivered via DHL Express, always deliver it at my neighbor at number 10, or always delivered at a parcel locker. So I think service points and parcel lockers is also something we can do to make the last mile greener, because then we can make multiple deliveries in one go, which is also less CO2 pollution. And I can talk on for 15 minutes about this topic if you want.
That's up to the organizers. Actually, I will try and draw it to a close, but I would like to bring it back. It's perfect that you brought up. It's not just on the logistics companies. It is really about making sure that for you all that your operations are as efficient as possible for the consumer. So the sort of the better you know the consumer, the better you will be at getting their needs fulfilled, the more ways you provide for them to get your product. Maybe it means that they can, instead of having it shipped to home, they can actually pick it up from the store, that's right down the street from their office on the way home, and there's no special trip. So it is a journey that we all get to make together, and certainly I agree with you that it's absolutely important. So I would like to thank each and every one of our panelists. Let's see if I've got this right here. Baldius, merci, and dank u wel.
Perfect.
Yep, so please, a round of applause for our wonderful panelists.